Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the most important events that took place on the Donetsk frontline, Kupiansk and Lyman areas. First we're going to start with the Donetsk city itself. Today we got at least two important and very interesting updates regarding the front line in the vicinity around this capital of DPR. And the first update we're getting from the Krasnogorovka. Probably after a few weeks and months of very fierce clashes and bombings of Krasnogorovka from the Russian side, as you can see the concentration of Russian fire in this area, the Ukrainians have redeployed some reserves in this direction, currently try to make a counter-offensive operation in direction of the coal mine. And the Ukrainians published the video of a counter-offensive operation of 79's Air Assault Brigade. As you can see, based on the video, they managed to get very close to the settlement. The only question I have is when exactly did that video was made, because it's according to the author, these events took place somewhere in August, so there are very high chances that those events took place maybe in the beginning or in the middle part. Anyway, we see that the Ukrainians tried to counterattack in this direction, and if you ask my opinion, there was an update from the Russian side about the situation in this area. Also, somewhere in the beginning of this month, that the Russians published the video of their counter-offensive operation. So probably that Ukrainian attack took place not today, not yesterday, but a week ago or something like this. And the Ukrainians, as a result of that attack, managed to establish control of the coal mine. After that, the Russians counter-attack, and as a result of counter-Russian offensive operation, the Russian forces established final and 100% control over the coal mine. So anyway, clashes in this area are very heavy, and the Ukrainians understand the value of this coal mine, because from these positions the Russians do have a possibility to establish some equipment. The most important is the communication equipment that they can use for for reconnaissance operation with drones above the settlement, which also led to the intensifying of clashes and bombings and usage of all types of weapons in the vicinity of the settlement. Even yesterday, if you remember, we discussed that as a result of another artillery strike, the Ukrainians lost the headquarters and positions of 79th Brigade that was involved in that counter-offensive operation. Now we are moving further to the north of this area and to another Krasnogorovka, but Krasnogorovka that is under Russian control, in the area between Novobakhmutovka and Krasnogorovka. Today, the official sources, Russian sources, and to be more precise, the head of DPR, Denis Pushilin, reported that the Russians launched another offensive operation with the stormtroopers, Storm Z squads in the vicinity of Novokalinovo Keramic. There was an offensive operation, probably that was reconnaissance in force or reconnaissance in combat. Very difficult to understand. I'm not sure that there was something very like big, huge, or massive or something like this, but anyway, the president of DPR confirmed that as a result of that attack, the Russians managed to capture a few strongholds in this area. Similar update we got a few days ago, and according to that piece of news was published on the 18th of August, that the same direction, the same area, the Russians made offensive operation very fast, unexpected for the Ukrainians, and as a result of that attack, the Russians managed to capture some strongholds. Maybe these two events are connected, and maybe the president of DPR was talking about the same things, but anyway, according to information we have, probably the Russians during the previous week of August and these days managed to develop their bridgehead in this direction. So currently we have at least two confirmation of that from different resources, so we will update the map before the next time we make a video. Now we are moving to Bakhmut, Artyomovsk, Klishchevka. This night we got also a lot of very interesting updates from this bridgehead. And the first, we got more clarification, more details about the Ukrainians' attempt to attack the Russian positions. This, at least now for sure, we have 100% sure information that these battles, those battles took place those days. Not as the battle in the vicinity of Kherson, Zaporozhye, as we discussed in the previous video, that took place a year ago, and most of the internet thought that that situation took place that week. The Russians using Ka-52 helicopters destroyed the Ukrainian tanks that we probably thought were destroyed as a result of tank fire or was destroyed on mines or something like this. Furthermore, the Ukrainians were defeated, as we discussed, and they were forced to step back to to retreat. And when they got to their positions along the canal, the Russians, or at least the author of this video claims that unknown power started bombing and shelling this area with cluster rounds. Because the Ukrainians, there was like radio talks, the Ukrainians were asking for evacuation, and they didn't know and they didn't understand who was attacking them with the cluster round. Whether there was attacks from the Ukrainian side, who were forcing the Ukrainians not to step back but to continue offensive operation, or that was the Russians with the cluster rounds from the Russian side. And another video we got from the north flank of Andreevka, another episode of failed attack, another failed attempt from the Ukrainian side, and as a result of that attack, the Ukrainians lost significant number of tanks. Right after the Russians managed to defeat the Ukrainians in the south, and the Ukrainians one more time was very close to encircle Andreevka and to penetrate this area. They were very close to complete this mission, and they were very close to establish control over this operation, over this bridgehead. And of course, if the Ukrainians were able to do this, that could be a real game changer on this front line. But something went wrong and they were forced to step back. Right after that, the Russians tried their luck and made their own counter-offensive operation in direction of the northern Klishchiivka fortification. And for these purposes, the Russians were using the armored fist, and before that attack, the Russians were bombing and trying to clear the trenches with drone strikes. The video was provided us by the special unit Bakhmut forces. We will not watch this video because of casualties and the participation of infantry and soldiers in that video when the soldiers were bombed by the drones. But right after a small clearing with drones of these trenches, the Russians launched an offensive operation, including at least 4 armored vehicles, and they were moving along the forest line to the south, trying to attack this fortification in flank. The Ukrainians discovered the Russian movements, and it was not even 4 but 5 armored vehicles, 3 tanks, and even more 6 armored vehicles, 4 tanks and 2 personal carriers with infantry, with stormtroopers, as I understand. As you can see, the Russians started their movement. They were trying to bypass the forest lines. The Ukrainians discovered them, and after that, the Ukrainians started bombing and shelling the Russians heavily with all types of weapons they have. We haven't received any. This video was provided first of all by the Ukrainian side, so that means that if the Ukrainians publish this video, that there is very high chances that the Russians were completely defeated in that operation as well. So basically, we can say that the score currently is 1-1. The Ukrainians were defeated on the south, and the Russians were defeated on the north. It's about the battles, of course. When talking about the number of losses, the Ukrainians had maybe 3 times more losses in Andreevka in comparison with a small Russian attempt to penetrate a defense belt on the north and to capture the northern Klishchiivka fortification. When talking about Kupiansk-Lyman front line, we haven't received almost nothing during the previous night, just a few videos from the Ukrainian side, how they established control over the supply roads that goes in the vicinity of Chervonopopovka. On this video, we see the Ukrainians discovered the Russian positions, and as a result of drone strike, the Ukrainians damaged or probably destroyed another Russian tank in this area. And that's it for the Donetsk, Kherson and Lyman front line. Military Summer channel reminds you condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.